A dark garage, a few boxes of books, one man with a dream. It doesn't sound like the beginning of one of the most powerful companies in history, but that's exactly how Amazon started. Today, Amazon delivers millions of packages every single day. It owns one of the world's largest cloud computing businesses. It changed the way people shop forever. Its founder, Jeff Bezos, became one of the richest people on Earth. But none of this was guaranteed. In fact, there was a time when experts laughed at Amazon. Newspapers predicted its collapse. Investors believed it would run out of money. Competitors waited for it to disappear. For years, Amazon lost billions of dollars. Most companies would have died. Amazon didn't. Because Jeff Bezos wasn't trying to build the biggest bookstore. He was trying to build the future. And that single decision changed the world forever. This is the incredible story of Amazon, the company that almost failed before conquering the world. The story begins long before Amazon, long before warehouses, prime deliveries, Alexa, or cloud computing. It begins with a curious little boy named Jeffrey Preston Jorgensen. Jeff was born on January 12, 1964, in Albuquerque, New Mexico. His mother, Jacqueline, was only 17 years old. His biological father was a young man named Ted Jorgensen. The marriage didn't last. Within a short time, Jeff's parents separated. Life became difficult. Jacqueline had to raise her son alone. When Jeff was 4 years old, everything changed. His mother married a Cuban immigrant named Miguel Bezos. Miguel had escaped Cuba as a teenager with almost nothing. He worked incredibly hard to build a new life in America. Eventually, Miguel adopted Jeff. From that day on, Jeffrey Jorgensen became Jeffrey Bezos. Jeff would later say that his stepfather taught him one of life's greatest lessons: never complain, solve problems. That philosophy would shape Amazon decades later. Every summer, Jeff spent months on his grandfather's ranch in Texas. There were no luxury hotels, no expensive toys, no smartphones. Instead, broken tractors, windmills, fences, engines, machines. Whenever something broke, his grandfather never called an expert. He simply fixed it. Young Jeff watched carefully. Then he started helping. He learned that almost every problem has a solution. If you're willing to think long enough, those lessons stayed with him forever. As a child, Jeff was obsessed with science. He loved taking things apart. Sometimes he couldn't even put them back together. But he wanted to understand how everything worked. One day, his parents discovered that Jeff had dismantled his own crib with a screwdriver. He wanted a real bed, and instead of asking, he solved the problem himself. That curiosity never disappeared. His room became a laboratory. His garage became a workshop. His imagination had no limits. While other children watched cartoons, Jeff dreamed about space travel. He read science fiction for hours. Authors like Isaac Asimov inspired him to imagine a future where humanity lived among the stars. Years later, those dreams would lead him to create Blue Origin. But before rockets, there would be books. And before books, there would be one life-changing decision. Jeff studied computer science and electrical engineering at Princeton University. He graduated near the top of his class. The technology industry was beginning to explode. Every major company wanted talented engineers. Jeff received incredible job offers. He accepted one after another, always moving toward bigger opportunities. Eventually, he arrived on Wall Street. There, he joined a hedge fund called D.E. Shaw. It was one of the smartest and most innovative investment firms in America. Jeff impressed everyone. He worked harder than almost anyone else. Within a few years, he became one of the youngest senior vice presidents in the company's history. He had everything people dream about: a prestigious career, a beautiful office, a six-figure salary, respect, security, success. For almost anyone, that would have been enough. But Jeff Bezos couldn't stop thinking about one strange number: 2,300%. That number refused to leave his mind, because in 1994, internet usage was growing by 2,300% every single year. Jeff had never seen anything like it. He realized something extraordinary was happening. The internet wasn't just another invention, it was becoming an entirely new economy. Most people ignored it. Jeff didn't. He sat down and made a list. What products could people buy online? He examined dozens of possibilities: music, electronics, clothing, office supplies, but one category stood above all the others: books, millions of titles, easy to ship. No physical store could ever stock them all. The idea looked almost obvious, yet nobody had built a truly global online bookstore. Jeff saw the opportunity. But there was one enormous problem. He already had the perfect life. If he left Wall Street, he could lose everything: his career, his income, his reputation, his future. It was the safest decision of his life, against the biggest gamble of his life. And Jeff Bezos had to choose. Jeff Bezos knew he was standing at a crossroads. Years later, he would describe his decision using something he called the regret minimization framework. He imagined himself at 80 years old, looking back on his life. Would he regret leaving a comfortable job, or would he regret never trying? The answer became crystal clear. He wasn't afraid of failing. He was afraid of wondering, what if? That single thought changed history. Jeff walked into his boss's office. His boss wasn't angry. Instead, he listened carefully. He even encouraged Jeff to think about the decision for a few more days. He believed Jeff had an incredible future on Wall Street, and he was right. Jeff could have become one of the most successful executives in finance. But Bezos wasn't chasing comfort. He was chasing possibility. In 1994, he resigned. Friends thought he was making a terrible mistake. The internet was still a mystery. Very few people had ever bought anything online. Starting an internet bookstore sounded ridiculous. Many believed it would fail within months. Jeff ignored them all. Together with his wife Mackenzie, he packed everything they owned into a car. They left New York behind. Their destination was Seattle, not Silicon Valley. Seattle. Why? Because it was close to one of the largest book distributors in America. It also had access to talented software engineers. During the long drive across the country, Jeff wasn't relaxing. He was writing the business plan. Mackenzie drove. Jeff typed. Hour after hour, mile after mile. By the time they reached Seattle, the blueprint for Amazon already existed. There was no fancy headquarters waiting for them, no investors, no giant office, no hundreds of employees, only a rented house and a garage. That garage became Amazon's first headquarters. There were no expensive desks. Jeff and the small team built their own desks using cheap wooden doors from a hardware store. The famous door desks became a symbol of Amazon's culture. Spend money where customers benefit. Save money everywhere else, even decades later. Amazon still used door desks in many offices, not because they couldn't afford better furniture, but because they wanted every employee to remember where the company came from. The first employees worked day and night. They wrote software, packed books, answered customer emails, swept the floor. Nobody cared about job titles. Everyone did everything. Jeff personally packed orders. Sometimes he drove packages to the post office himself. Every single customer mattered. The company needed a name. At first, Jeff wanted to call it Cadabra, like abracadabra. But there was a problem. People kept hearing cadaver. Not exactly the image you want for a bookstore. So Jeff searched the dictionary. He wanted a name beginning with the letter A. In the early days of the internet, websites were often listed alphabetically. Then he found it. Amazon, the world's largest river. Powerful, massive, almost endless. Jeff smiled. One day, his company would become just as enormous. The website finally went online in July 1995. It looked unbelievably simple. No animations, no beautiful graphics, just books, and a button to buy them. Then, they waited. Nothing happened. Hours passed. Silence. Finally, a notification appeared. Someone had placed an order. Nobody in the office celebrated immediately. They simply stared at the screen. Then another order arrived, and another. Within weeks, orders started coming from every corner of America. Then from other countries. People loved the idea of buying books without visiting a store. Amazon could offer millions of titles. Traditional bookstores couldn't. Customers were amazed. Jeff had one obsession: customer satisfaction. He believed something that most companies ignored. If you make customers happy, they'll come back. That philosophy became Amazon's greatest weapon. Every complaint was studied, every delay was analyzed, every problem became an opportunity to improve. Soon, orders became so frequent that employees attached a small bell to the office computer. Every time a customer bought a book, the bell rang. At first, everyone cheered. But after a few weeks, the bell rang every few seconds. Eventually, they turned it off. There were simply too many orders. Amazon's first year ended with almost $500,000 in sales. An incredible achievement for a tiny garage startup. Investors began paying attention. New employees arrived. The garage became too small. Amazon moved into larger offices. Growth accelerated. Then something happened that changed everything. Jeff Bezos made one of the boldest decisions in business history. Instead of keeping Amazon as just an online bookstore, he wanted to sell everything. Most people thought he had lost his mind. Most CEOs dream of building one successful business. Jeff Bezos wanted to build the store that sold everything. Books were only the beginning. His vision was far bigger. He imagined a future where people would sit at home, open a website, click a button, and buy almost anything they could imagine. In 1996, that sounded impossible. Most people still didn't trust the internet. Many were afraid to type their credit card numbers online. Shopping meant driving to a store, touching products, waiting in long checkout lines. Nobody believed online shopping could replace that experience. Jeff Bezos disagreed. He believed customer behavior would eventually change, not in 5 weeks, not in 5 months, but over years, and he was willing to wait. That patience separated him from almost everyone else. While competitors focused on making quick profits, Bezos focused on building systems, warehouses, technology, software, distribution, customer service. Every dollar Amazon earned went back into the company. Wall Street became confused. Where are the profits? Investors kept asking. Quarter after quarter, Amazon reported losses. Millions of dollars disappeared, then hundreds of millions. Financial experts couldn't understand it. If Amazon keeps losing money, it won't survive. Television analysts criticized Bezos. Newspapers questioned his strategy. Some investors sold their shares, others laughed openly. One famous headline called Amazon .bomb. They believed the explosion was only a matter of time. Jeff Bezos read those articles, then went back to work. Because he wasn't managing for tomorrow's stock price, he was building for the next 20 years. In 1997, Amazon became a public company. The IPO raised about $54 million. Many investors expected Amazon to slow down after going public. Instead, Bezos accelerated. Books became music. Music became movies. Movies became electronics. Electronics became toys. Toys became almost everything. Each new category frightened competitors. Traditional retailers finally realized Amazon wasn't just another bookstore. It was becoming something entirely different. One company in particular began paying close attention: Walmart, the king of retail. For decades, Walmart had dominated American shopping. Thousands of giant stores, millions of customers, unmatched buying power. Executives at Walmart believed they could crush Amazon whenever they wanted. After all, how could a tiny internet company compete with the largest retailer on earth? Walmart even recruited several Amazon executives. Some believed Bezos would panic. He didn't. Instead, he gathered his employees. Then he said something unforgettable. "We're not afraid of them. They should be afraid of us." It sounded almost arrogant. How could a small company losing money challenge Walmart? But Bezos understood something his competitors didn't. The future wasn't inside shopping malls. The future was online. Every year, more people connected to the internet. Every year, online shopping became easier. Every year, Amazon became stronger. Then, the biggest disaster arrived. The year was 2000. The internet economy collapsed. Thousands of technology companies disappeared almost overnight. Investors panicked. Billions of dollars vanished. Businesses that had once been worth fortunes became worthless. This became known as the dot-com crash. For Amazon, the timing couldn't have been worse. Its stock price collapsed by more than 90%. Imagine seeing nearly all your company's market value disappear. Many employees watched their stock options become almost worthless. Journalists declared Amazon finished. Television programs predicted bankruptcy. Financial magazines published articles asking, "Can Amazon survive?" Some experts gave it only a few months. Inside Amazon, fear spread quickly. Would salaries stop? Would layoffs begin? Would the company close forever? Jeff Bezos faced the biggest crisis of his life. Every decision now mattered. One mistake could destroy everything he had spent years building. Instead of giving motivational speeches, Bezos did something different. He became even more disciplined. Costs were reduced. Expansion slowed. Weak projects were canceled. Efficiency became the company's obsession. Amazon wasn't trying to impress investors anymore. It was trying to stay alive. Many painful decisions followed. Employees lost their jobs. Entire departments disappeared. The atmosphere changed. The exciting startup spirit was replaced by survival mode. But Bezos never abandoned his long-term vision. He repeated the same message again and again. Focus on customers, not competitors. That philosophy kept Amazon moving forward, even while the entire internet industry seemed to be collapsing. Most companies were fighting yesterday's battle. Bezos was already preparing for tomorrow. And soon, one decision would transform Amazon forever. A decision that had nothing to do with books and everything to do with technology. It would eventually become one of the most profitable businesses in human history. Its name was Amazon Web Services. Amazon had survived. But surviving wasn't enough. Jeff Bezos wanted Amazon to become impossible to replace. One day, engineers inside the company noticed something strange. Every new project required the same technical work: storage, databases, computing power, servers, again and again and again. Each team was rebuilding the same infrastructure from scratch. It was slow, expensive, and inefficient. Most companies would have accepted it as normal. Jeff Bezos didn't. He asked a simple question. What if we built this infrastructure once and let everyone use it? That question gave birth to one of the greatest business ideas in history. In 2006, Amazon quietly launched a new service. Almost nobody paid attention. It wasn't another online store. It wasn't a new gadget. It wasn't even aimed at ordinary shoppers. It was called Amazon Web Services, or simply AWS. Instead of buying expensive servers, companies could rent computing power from Amazon. Need more storage? Click a button. Need more processing power? Click another button. No massive investments, no giant data centers, only pay for what you use. It sounded revolutionary, but many businesses didn't trust it. Why would we put our data on someone else's computers? people asked. Once again, Jeff Bezos heard the criticism, and once again, he ignored it. Slowly, small startups began using AWS. Then larger companies joined. Then global corporations followed. Within a few years, AWS had become the invisible engine powering the internet. Netflix, Airbnb, Pinterest, thousands, then millions of businesses relied on Amazon's cloud. Ironically, the company famous for selling books had become one of the world's largest technology providers. And AWS generated something Amazon's retail business often didn't: massive profits. While the online store fought fierce competition, AWS quietly earned billions. It became the financial engine behind Amazon's expansion. But Jeff Bezos wasn't finished. He believed one more idea could completely change customer behavior: fast shipping. At the time, waiting a week for an online order was considered normal. Sometimes customers waited even longer. Bezos hated that. He wanted buying online to feel effortless. So Amazon introduced something many analysts called financial suicide: Amazon Prime. Customers would pay one yearly membership fee and receive unlimited fast shipping. Critics couldn't believe it. Shipping was expensive. How could Amazon afford this? Wouldn't customers order more and cost the company even more money? Wall Street predicted another disaster. But Bezos wasn't thinking about shipping costs. He was thinking about habits. If customers paid for Prime, they would naturally choose Amazon first. Again, he was right. Prime members ordered more frequently, spent more money, and stayed loyal for years. The service expanded: movies, music, TV shows, exclusive deals, free books. Prime became far more than shipping. It became an entire ecosystem. The more services Amazon offered, the harder it became for customers to leave. Competitors struggled to keep up. Traditional retailers invested billions trying to catch Amazon. Many failed. Some disappeared completely. Shopping malls across America began losing customers. Thousands of stores closed forever. The retail world was changing, and Amazon stood at the center of that revolution. By the late 2010s, Amazon had become one of the most valuable companies on earth. Hundreds of billions of dollars in annual revenue, hundreds of thousands of employees, massive fulfillment centers across continents, airplanes, delivery vans, cargo ships, robots working alongside humans, artificial intelligence helping predict customer demand before an order was even placed. The tiny garage startup had become a global empire. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic. Changed the world. People stayed home, stores closed, entire cities went silent. But millions still needed food, medicine, electronics, books, household supplies. Amazon became an essential lifeline. Orders exploded to record levels. Warehouses worked around the clock. Delivery drivers faced enormous pressure. The company hired hundreds of thousands of new employees in a short period. Amazon grew faster than almost anyone imagined, and Jeff Bezos became the richest person in the world. But despite all the success, he knew something important. Amazon was never supposed to depend on one person. In 2021, after 27 years as CEO, Jeff Bezos stepped down. Many people were shocked. Why leave while standing at the top? Because Bezos believed his greatest job had already been completed. He hadn't built just a company. He had built a machine capable of innovating without him. Today, Amazon continues expanding into new industries: artificial intelligence, healthcare, satellite internet, robotics, logistics, entertainment. The story is still being written, but perhaps the most remarkable part of Amazon's journey was never its size. It was its mindset. Think about it. Amazon was never the cheapest company. It wasn't always the first. It didn't invent the internet. It didn't invent online shopping. It didn't invent cloud computing. And yet, it dominated them all. Why? Because Jeff Bezos understood something many entrepreneurs never do. Success isn't built by chasing today's profits. It's built by investing in tomorrow. Every time critics said Amazon was spending too much, Bezos invested more. Every time investors demanded faster profits, he focused on long-term growth. Every time competitors copied today's Amazon, Bezos was already building tomorrow's Amazon. That is why Amazon survived when thousands of internet companies disappeared. The garage where Amazon began is now part of business history. Those simple wooden door desks became symbols of one of the world's most valuable companies. The little online bookstore became a business that delivers millions of packages every day. The company that newspapers once called Amazon.bomb is now worth trillions of dollars. And perhaps the most important lesson has nothing to do with money. Jeff Bezos once said, "If you're going to innovate, you have to be willing to be misunderstood for a long time." For years, people misunderstood Amazon. They thought the company was wasting money. They thought Jeff Bezos was reckless. They thought Amazon would disappear. History proved them wrong. Today, millions of people order from Amazon without even thinking about it. Businesses around the world run on AWS without customers ever noticing. Prime has become part of everyday life for millions of families. The company that started with a few books in a garage changed the habits of the entire world. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. The biggest companies aren't always built by the smartest people or the richest people. They're often built by people who are willing to believe in a future that everyone else laughs at. So the next time someone tells you, that idea will never work, remember Jeff Bezos, remember the garage, remember the door desks, remember the years of losses, remember the stock crashing by more than 90%, remember the headlines predicting failure. Because sometimes, the difference between failure and history is simply refusing to quit. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to discover how the world's greatest companies were really built, subscribe to the channel. Because the next business empire might have an even more unbelievable story.